the deep trend. So a couple of rough days online, all day, talking to people all day. not that that's necessarily bad, but man, first couple of people, 8 hours, something like that, 6 hours. I can't remember. Um, Unbelievable. Like they admitting that they're unable to be in a conversation, although they don't see it that way. Basically because they're incapable of questioning their own assertions, axiomatic statements, but always skeptical of everyone else's. Like always. It said this, didn't hide the ball. Actually said this, right? Also, this behavior around, well, yes, I accused you. I said you were a certain way, but I said it was my opinion, and so that's not an accusation. It's like, I don't think you understand how language works. Like it's deeply strange that people can make these sorts of statements. And we had another guy last night who was, I feel okay about it because I feel like we made progress, but literally using an engineering mind frame. I'm using an engineer or training to be one. Casting everything in his head as models. Okay, no. Admitting to us that in the conversation, he figured out what our frames were as best as he could, put us in those frames, and then related to that. And we said, wait a minute. So you're making a connection with the instance of us that you have in your head, but not making a connection with us. And he was like, yeah. But he felt good about it. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not connected to the people in the conversation. It's like, why is that better? And then he would seem deeply surprised that I was saddened by the conversation because I thought it could be so much more intimate and connected, right? But he wasn't able to make the connection. And that was like an 8-hour conversation. And it's just weird how these things unfold over time. And this trend of not understanding the concept that if there's a simulation, and these are the words, right? You have a simulation, and the simulation that's running in the simulator is now bigger than the simulator. And I'm like, that can't ever happen by definition. Like you're just breaking all the laws of physics, all the rules of mathematics. Like you're just violating every known thing. And they're like, yes, but infinity. And I'm like, okay, but it still doesn't work. And you're not in infinity. Like you don't live in infinity. You're a finite creature. Like you're finite in space and you're finite in time. So you can talk about infinity all day long, but you can't know infinity. You can't understand infinity. You can't comprehend infinity. It's not an option, right? It's not an option except in the abstract. But we don't live in the abstract. We live in the real world. So what? Why do you think this is a trick? And why do you think the trick works? And one of the guys who was there, I said, okay, let's suppose you're running a simulation of the game of life on a computer. That computer has a limited amount of CPU and memory. When you run that simulation, the simulator uses up some of the resources. So the thing it's simulating is always smaller than that. And this was a revelation to him. I was like, okay. And it kept making the argument too. It's very emergent, right? It's very much like, yes, but you can simulate the game of life from within the game of life. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can, but not at the same size and scale. And they were like, no, it can be bigger. And I'm like, no, it literally can't be bigger. And it can't be faster. It's like, it's necessarily going to be smaller and slower. And the fact that you can keep doing that, you can write a simulator that simulates inside the simulator, blah, blah, that is worse. Like that's moving towards the bad. Actually, it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Why you think making things worse is a solution to a problem? I don't. I'll never understand that. I'm not smart enough to understand that. Where are you getting this from? But one of the things that occurred to me, and I've been toying with this idea for some time, of limited cognition, which you would think would be kind of obvious, right? Like, oh, we don't all have the same cognition, right? Because evolution is real and true. And okay, yeah, sure. Okay, well then, do you think cognition is unlimited? Well, obviously no, because you can just observe people and think that you're smarter than them or dumber than them. So either you're limited or they're limited. So you believe in limitation of cognition. What if you're spending your cognition on the wrong thing? And you're using up all your cognition relating to things in terms of models in your head, instead of using your cognition to relate to things directly, right? Map for territory problem. And I think that's happening. Like, I think that's actually, you're wasting all your cognition on propositional and procedural. You have no cognition left for participation poetic. And I think that, yes, I think that's exactly, and then you seem autistic. Okay, yep, absolutely. If you don't know how to participate with people in the poetic, with poetic information, then you're going to look artistic, because you're either going to relate to everything in propositions and procedures, or you're going to participate in everything with procedures. And I mean, you can't break the world down to procedures and expect a working worldview. The other thing I've been thinking about lately is I'm just listening to more, we'll say, new Vervaeke. Although it's not new. I mean, it's just the inevitable conclusion of the Gnostic neoplatonism occultism, which James Lindsay talks about in the WTF is SEL video, which is a wonderful video. I mean, basically, like, what he's doing is he's continually using an emergence only framework to try and emerge something bigger, right? And he's moving and seeing that as progress, but he's trapped in Zeno's paradox and doesn't realize it. Like, the tools of science, logic, reason, and rationality, are not going to get you to the wall, ever. Zeno's paradox, in some sense, just basically states that there is an infinite amount of detail in the world that you can look at. And so as you try to get a perfect, detailed description of something like consciousness, or the difference between the is and the ought, or the gap between the physical and the ethereal, right? Or the material and the ethereal. All you're going to do is get lost in detail. You're never going to make the leap. You're never going to get across it. Right? Because only agents in the world can do that. And we're the only agents in the world that are fully in the world. We'll say that. I think that's safe. And they don't get it. Like, literally, John doesn't get it. Like, it's not hard, right? But it's like, you're not going to get there. You're going to get stuck going halfway towards the wall every time, and just cutting that distance in half and examining that halfway distance and cutting that distance in half and examining. You're never going to get the wall. That's the whole purpose of these things. Like, I think that paradoxes are the things that tell you where the limits of your worldview are. If you're stuck in Zeno's paradox, that means that you're a materialist and you're stuck in materialism, and materialism has a limit, and the limit is Zeno's paradox. Bang. And the only way out of that is to get out of the materialism. So yeah, these are some things I've been noticing, and like, at this point, it's just getting comical. And yeah, I mean, look, I mean, you get two ways to see the world. You can see it with a negative valence, right? You can see it with a positive valence. If you see the world with a negative valence, it's opponent processing all the way down and all the way out. But opponents are stuck on a plane fighting over the same ground, and only one can win, and the other one has to lose. So only one sacrificing. If you want to think of the world as cooperative processing, these two can each sacrifice a little to gain something up here. And that's how the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts. Really not hard. And yet, we're stuck with these people who want to use opponent instead of cooperative, right? It's like, no, you don't want opponents. You want cooperation from other people. You don't want to oppose them, and you don't want them opposing you. That makes both of you worse. You can make both of you better through small sacrifice. And it's stunning to me that people don't understand these simple concepts. You would think that they would, but we're kind of stuck in this world where people don't understand simple things anymore, and they understand really complex things, or at least complicated things. And these basic concepts, they never given to them. And it's very sad. It's very sad. I don't like it. But I did a 7-hour live stream and it got like 570 something views so far. I don't know why. 7 hours. Unbelievable. Navigating patterns. Who knew? Might do another one on Friday. We'll see. We'll see how much, how good I feel. But yeah, I mean, this is just my rant for today because it's already been a hell of a week. It's only Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to make it to the end of the week at this rate. My goodness. Stay safe out there.